Getting from 25 to 15% body fat isn't easy. And if anyone tells you it is, they're full of shit. But if you've got the right playbook, anyone, and I do really mean anyone, can do it. I did it myself way back in 2018, and since then I've helped hundreds of other men do exactly the same thing. And today I want to share the full playbook with you. So full screen the video, lock in, and let's crack on. Before we dive into what it actually takes, it's important to understand what the journey from 25% to 15% looks like. So I asked ChatGPT to mock up the most accurate representation that it could of a man at 25% and then at 15%. And this is what it came up with. At 25%, you've got belly fat, man boobs, and a double chin. But it's not just about how you look, it's about how you feel. Your energy's inconsistent, your sleep isn't great, you feel sluggish after meals, and as a result of that, you avoid mirrors, you hate cameras, and you second guess yourself constantly. Whereas when you're closer to 15%, your jawline reappears, your arms pop in a t-shirt, and your waistline shrinks. You wake up clearer, your clothes fit better, your sex drive improves, your confidence rebounds, and you feel like the man you used to be. I'm not telling you all this to put you down, quite the opposite. I'm telling you this to paint a picture of what your life could look like if you follow the steps that I'm about to take you through. So, what does it actually take? Well, I've got good news and bad news. Good news, literally anyone can do this. Bad news, this isn't going to happen overnight. So the very first thing that you need is a long-term strategy. Now, if you put into action what we're going to talk about today, you should start seeing results very quickly. But over time, those results will start to slow down. So you might lose 5 pounds in the first week, but overall, on average, you should be looking to lose about 1 to 2 pounds per week and a percentage point of body fat every 2 weeks. And that's if you're doing everything. If you're doing 80% of what I talk you through, you're going to get 80% of results. You cannot cherry pick this stuff. But the key word that I want you to remember here is intentionality. You have to be intentional because you don't want to see this as another quick fix. What you want to see this as is a lifestyle shift. Because if you see this as a timed thing, whether it's 8 weeks, 12 weeks, or 16 weeks, it's going to add pressure. It's going to feel like work. That's the exact mindset that keeps guys stuck at 25%. But you can't operate with a mindset of a guy at 25% and expect 15% results. At 25%, your habits are emotional, reactive, and inconsistent. Basically, you don't really care about your body. Whereas at 15%, your habits are structured and repeatable, and they work. You know what it's like? It's like upgrading from a Ford Focus to a Range Rover. The driver, you, is the same, but the ride, your life, feels sharper, smoother, and way more powerful. So this isn't about motivation. It's about identity. You have to become the kind of man who keeps promises to himself and holds himself to a higher standard. So stop asking, what do I need to do? And start asking, who do I need to become? Because you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And you build those systems by showing up daily, especially when you don't want to, because this isn't just a paint job, it's an engine swap. Putting a go fast stripe on a car doesn't actually make the car go faster. So the goal isn't to change how the car looks, it's to change how it performs. So you right now need to decide if you're serious about losing this body fat and whether it's a priority for you right now or not. And if it's not, no judgment whatsoever. But it's better to decide right now than half-ass it for the next 4 weeks and give up. And if you've decided that it is a priority for you right now, then the best place to start is with a short task that I call building the superhero mindset. All you have to do is think of your hero. Could be real, could be fictional, it doesn't matter. Then I want you to ask yourself the following 5 questions. Number 1, what words do people use to describe them? Number 2, what daily habits do you think they have? Number 3, what would they never do? Number 4, if they were living your life, what would they do differently? And number 5, what would they say on the days you want to quit? And if you're serious about this, I encourage you to pause the video right now and spend 5 minutes answering these questions. Then once you've got the answers, all you have to do is apply them to your own life. Basically, overnight, you'll start walking, talking, and most importantly, acting like the man that you want to become. In other words, you'll become the hero of your own story. And this simple task gives you a superpower. It gives you self-belief. And that's all you need to take the first step, to get out of your own way, to push aside procrastination, and to slowly but surely start to build a little bit of momentum. The challenge is knowing what that first step should be. And this is what keeps most guys spinning their wheels. They're ready to go, but they don't know which direction to go in. Diet, training, supplements. But the reality is, it doesn't matter. At the beginning, all you need to do is focus on one and start. You want to lay the foundations with one change and then build on it. Because if you try to change everything all at once, you're either going to get too overwhelmed to start and procrastinate, or you're going to burn out. Now, it's completely up to you where you start, but if it was me, I would start with my movement, because movement is a little bit like a catalyst for everything else. You know what it's like? You don't want to train hard and then eat badly. It seems so counterintuitive. There's two parts to your movement. First up, we've got your workouts. And what I'd suggest you do is either go for 3 full body workouts a week or 4 workouts where you're doing 2 upper body and 2 lower body, depending on the amount of time and the number of days that you can commit to the gym. Now, regardless of the number of days that you can commit to the gym, that you do not need to be training for 2 hours each session. If you're training intentionally and doing the right things, 30 to 45 minutes is more than enough. So to start, I would pick 6 to 8 compound movements, 3 or 4 for your lower body and 3 or 4 for your upper body. And in case you don't know what compound movements are, they're the exercises that use multiple joints and the biggest muscles in your body. So you might pick squats, deadlifts, lunges for your lower body, and pull-ups or dips or bent over rows or bench press or overhead press for your upper body. Again, those are just examples. I'm not saying that you have to do those ones. But the point is, you want to focus on doing less better. So you don't need to be going around the gym doing 20 different exercises 6 days a week, because exercises aren't just exercises, they are also skills. The first time you try any exercise, you aren't even really going to be putting the muscle under mechanical tension. You're just going to be getting used to doing that exercise because it's a skill. It's going to take you a few goes, which is going to be a few weeks, to get to a level of competency where you can actually feel a mind-muscle connection. And only then are you actually going to start developing that muscle. So if you're running around the gym doing 20 different exercises every single week, it's going to take you a lot longer time to master any one of those exercises. So that's the first thing, doing less better and focusing on compound movement. The second thing comes back to that word intentionality. A lot of the guys I see in the gym are spending 2 hours there, but they're spending one of those hours scrolling on their phones. If you just put your phone away and focus for 30 to 45 minutes and take shorter rest periods and do higher rep ranges with fewer exercises, that means you're going to get more volume, more work done. You're going to be moving around the gym less, and you can get in and out of the gym and make your workout far more efficient and far more effective. And then last but not least, make sure that you are tracking your lifts so that you're making sure that you're progressively overloading, which is where you're increasing the amount of volume that you're lifting over time. That is how you build muscle. But what you don't want to be prioritizing and judging your workouts by is the amount that you sweat, because you don't sweat fat out. You actually breathe fat out. When you sweat, it's just water leaving your body. You're not training to burn calories. You're training to build the muscle under the fat. You're training to build the physique, the strength, and the confidence. When it comes to burning calories and losing fat, what's far more important is something called your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So here's what I want you to do, and everybody can do this right now. Open up your phone and look at your step count for the last week or month. Don't just look at one day, because we need to get an average here. Okay, whatever number you've pulled out, that average is now your baseline. Now I want you to aim to increase that number by 10% this week, and then simply do the same every single week until you hit 70K. The average number of steps that a man walks in the USA and the UK is about 4,000 per day. So the chances are that you're currently doing about 30,000 steps a week. If that's the case, then right now 70,000 is probably going to feel pretty unachievable. You can't even see how you could be able to do that. But committing to 10% incremental increase each week is achievable. And that's exactly the approach that we want to take. Remember what I said a couple of minutes ago? We want to focus on starting with one thing, laying the foundation, and then building on top of that. And your step count is a great place to start. When it comes to order of priorities for fat loss, steps sit far higher than workouts do. And you don't even need to aim for 10,000 steps per day. The goal over time is to build up to 70,000 a week. And that's a very different thing. Why? Because not every single day is going to look the same. Some days you're going to have more time than other days. If you try to hit the same number every single day, you're going to go crazy. And your NEAT isn't just about your steps. It's about making conscious lifestyle changes intentionally. At first, you have to be intentional because you're changing your habits, you're changing your lifestyle. But over time, it will become more automatic and you won't have to think about it as much. Same goes for your nutrition. Don't overcomplicate it. Build in a sustainable calorie deficit, which is very easy to calculate. You just take your goal body weight in pounds and multiply it by 12, and then actually track your calories. With the tech we've got these days, tracking takes less than 5 minutes a day. So if you're serious about doing this, you will track. And if you're not, you won't. And again, be intentional. Think about how the best version of you would eat. Build your meals around protein, fiber, and water. Look at the ingredients of the food that you're eating. The fewer, the better. Have more whole foods, less processed junk, less liquid calories, less snacking. I'm not saying to cut out all the stuff that you enjoy. I am a big advocate of what we call the 80-20 rule, where you have 80% of your food from whole, nutrient-dense foods that's supporting your goals, but equally making space for the 20% of foods that you love and look forward to, because it's that 20% that makes this 80% sustainable. And that's important because this 20% gives you little mini diet breaks every single day. It gives you something to look forward to, and it's much better to have that every single day than have some massive blowout, because most people who are trying, and I expect if you're watching a video like this, you already are, don't need to overhaul their entire life. They just need to pay more attention and change one or two things. I always come back to the example with my client Adam, because when Adam and I first started working together, it looked like he was already doing everything right. He was getting his steps in, he was working out 4 times a week with a PT, and he was eating pretty healthy. But the one thing that he wasn't doing was tracking his calories. And as soon as he committed to the process, within 48 hours, we figured out that it was just one thing that was holding him back. That one thing was the 600 calories that he was having from his Starbucks every single day without even realizing it. And as soon as he saw that data on the phone screen, he cut them out, switched to black coffee, and started losing fat like that. Now, that's obviously just one example, but the point is, if you're watching videos like this, you're probably only 1 or 2 changes away from getting on the path that you want to be on. And this part of the process is so powerful, because once you've found what works for you, once you've got a consistent and proven system where you're losing 1 to 2 pounds of fat per week, you don't need to track anymore. You just need to rinse and repeat. But regardless of where you start, none of this is going to matter if you don't prioritize the final piece of the pie, and that's sleep. I used to see health a little bit like a circle with 3 equal parts. You had your sleep, you had your fitness, and you had your diet. But the older I've gotten and the more clients that I've worked with, the more I've realized that health is a little bit like a pyramid, and sleep is the foundation of that pyramid. Sleep is the secret weapon that nobody really talks about. It's not sexy. It doesn't get clicks on YouTube. But when you miss a few good nights' sleep, your hunger hormones spike, your cravings go through the roof, you lose your energy, your drive, your motivation, and all the momentum that you've worked so hard to build up. And when that happens, the fat loss is going to stall. So even if you're done at some point and you're training hard, all of this is going to be so much harder than it needs to be. It's like trying to drive with the handbrake on. You won't get far and eventually you'll just break down. So those are the 4 things. You've got your exercise, you've got your NEAT, you've got your nutrition, and you've got your sleep. But what ties all of this together is data. Why? Because if you don't have data, you're going off your feelings, and your brain is going to trick you. You want to remove as much of the emotion as you can from the equation. And that's exactly what objective data does. Whether it's your steps, your calories, your macros, your water, your sleep, it doesn't matter. The more data that you've got, the more accountable that you are, and the more objectively you're going to be able to look at your progress. Data makes it so much easier to stay consistent with the process. So you want to be tracking as many metrics as you can. You want to be weighing yourself daily, taking measurements, and taking progress photos and putting them side by side. All of this is so important because somewhere along the way, you will plateau. Most guys know what they're doing. None of what I've said today is particularly revolutionary. What keeps most guys stuck or from achieving the goals that they want is that somewhere along the way, they shoot themselves in the foot. In my experience, 20% body fat is the most dangerous part of the journey, because at that point, you've lost some weight. In fact, you've probably had a win every single week. There's lots of dopamine and positive reinforcement, but then the visible changes start to slow down, and that messes with your head. The scales stall, you retain water, and you start doubting the plan. And this is where most guys quit. They think it's not working. They think they need something new or different. I call this SOS, shiny object syndrome. But it's like digging for gold and stopping 6 inches before you hit the mother lode. You are closer than you think, but you're quitting right before the breakthrough. Whereas in reality, if you just keep pushing through, this is where fat is finally going to start coming off those stubborn areas. And this is why I say that patience is the healthiest habit that nobody talks about. Because at this stage, once you've built the habits, it's all mental. You've actually done the hard work. You just need to stay the course. Fat loss is never linear. It comes in chunks. So hold the line, stick to the plan, keep tracking. This isn't a plateau. It's a test. You're going to feel tired some days. You're going to crave junk food. You're going to want to quit. But that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. If anything, it means you're doing it right. Your brain wants comfort. It's going to whisper in your ear that you've earned a break. And by the way, that voice never goes away. I still get it to this day, but that's not your higher self. That's your old self trying to survive. Motivation fades, systems last, and discipline is turning up when you don't want to. You don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be relentless. The SAS say that when you're done, you're normally only at 40% of your capacity. And that applies here too. And it is so worth it. I honestly wish I could just inject that feeling into you right now, because nobody can take it away from you. You have done it. Nobody else. You wake up proud. You trust yourself again. You walk into a room and feel like the main character, not just the guy in the background. You stop avoiding the cameras, the mirrors, and the social occasions. Your clothes fit the way they were meant to. Your partner notices. Heck, strangers notice. You go from being the guy looking for advice to the guy giving the advice. Your energy, your mood, your libido, everything improves. And the best part is that you can sustain it, because the habits, the intentionality of what got you there is now a part of who you are. And your body adapts and sees this as the new normal. Now you're there, it wants to stay there. So if you've made it to this point in the video, you have got everything that you need to go from 25 to 15% body fat. Sadly, by the time they've started and navigated through the minefield of mistakes, it's still going to take most guys anything from 6 months to a year. But I can fast track that journey for you and get you there in just 16 weeks. If you want to find out how, click the link under the video. Go on. I dare you. Or if you're not quite there yet, then click here and watch this video next, because if you enjoyed this one, I know you're going to enjoy that one. Choice is yours.